So I've got you, so this class we have got you two examples which are on the concepts of eco-friendly homes. These are nothing but they run completely on passive design techniques in terms of climate responsiveness. The materials chosen are being very specifically chosen, understanding the behavioral pattern of the materials. So this is the practice called wall makers. It's in Kerala, and the architect generally uses a lot of natural, locally available material, and also a lot of recycled material. So this is one of the project which is called the IHA Residence, which is it's in Thiruvananthapuram, India. Uh, it is 3,100 square feet, and the completed year it was completed in 2018 itself. So the project site was situated in the low-lying terrain with issues of waterlogging, which are the primary obstacles that architects had to tackle. The primary idea was to ensure that the building wasn't creating a hindrance in the flow of water. Being in the state like Kerala, where the rains are frequent, we had to ensure that the water percolates into the ground and it could be harvested as well. So there is a rainwater harvesting system that has been installed. So the architects had come up with an alternative and sustainable solution which could also enhance the spatial quality upon in the lowest point of the site so that water is retained in the site as well as adding to the veristic vibe of the residence. Veristic is nothing but strictly natural. Everything that is being used is very natural or either it's going to be recycled. Also, the pond that they are talking about is more, it's like an ecological pond. So they generally place the pond at the lowest level of the site so that all the water that trickles down from the site starts, tries, reaches the pond and retains there. Using bamboo for the facade, it had a downside to it. So these were one of their challenges, which is that is precarious and not supporting the entire edifice of the enormous size. So the kind of bamboo that was available, they are very flexible. Okay, so earlier they wanted to use it for the facade, so it never gave them that kind of a strength that they wanted. This is the barrier that was demolished and proved wrong by dint of this project. The bamboo facade is created and conserved in a stable position by reinforcing the bamboo with steel rods. So they couldn't only use bamboo, but they have to introduce another material to ensure that they can still use the bamboo the way they want it, but just increase the durability or the strength of the bamboo by introducing the steel rods within them. The continuous string of bamboo handle from the front elevation of the building supporting the staircase that hangs from it, also creating a semi-open space for your quiet thoughts. So that is much more like an institutional space between your house and the external environment altogether. They have used the CSEB bricks, which are nothing but compressed stabilized earth blocks, has been used to create a rotating jali work to impact privacy to the bedrooms, apart from the marble, which is basically the light creates, and the consequent polar arrangements allows uninterrupted flow of air. So there is a constant natural flow of air which is present, sorry, in the building. At the same time, there is a nice pattern of daylight. They have actually used the base plate of the washing machines as scrap grills instead of the fresh factory made ones in the imperative part of the residence. Use of such grills instead of fresh ones propagate the idea of upcycling. So they are actually talking about upcycling the material. All these things are actually talking about the sustainable development or an eco-friendly house which has a lower environmental impact. And it serves as the medium of income for laborers who part their sweat to create exquisite piece of art. Also, what they have tried is they have also tried small changes in the usual routine of wastage by inculcating something the regular sees junkyard in junkyard. So they've used the, as I told you, the washing machine motor base plates welded together, uh, and it has been also it's added to the beauty of the residence. Utilizing scrap material and turn it into something spectacular is being made possible. So it's one of their like a showcase element. In the interiors, they use simplistic and minimalistic rustic interiors for the residents. They do a lot of inbuilt furniture for the houses. The architects make use of the uprooted trees and waste wood from the sawmills as the furniture for the residents. So whatever trees were being uprooted or not, or maybe the tree has not been in a good shape. So when they have uprooted it, they've actually used the wood. Also, whenever they have uprooted it, they have also planted the trees in the periphery. So there is no there is no way of reducing the tree cover or the vegetation. The structure connects closely to the nature in terms of terrain, design, and material. The residence hugs and stays close to the environment of peace around it and outgoing the cordial vibe with the four walls of the residence. So it's not a very enclosed space, but is much more vibrant in terms of the indoor-outdoor relationships. Let's look at some of the pictures and the drawings as well. So this is the kind of house which we are going to see, wherein you clearly have these entrances. So what you have at the extreme, so when on the east side you have your bedrooms, master bedroom with an attached toilet to it. It's quite open plan. When you enter, the living space is much more open. So 7 is your entire living room. 5th is your kitchen, and 4 is your workspace, which is there, which also you can you move out of the workspace. 9 is another guest
Nine,
bedroom.
another guest
Yes.
bedroom.
Hello. So ninth is the guest bedroom, which is there. Uh, this is the first floor plan, which is there, wherein another bedroom is there on the east side. Then there is a master bedroom, and also there are these balconies, and there is a cutout space, so there is a double heighted space which is there. So there is a staircase, and that staircase is the one which is actually knitted with your bamboo screens as well. So that's the elevation. What is peculiar about the elevation is you have the rainwater harvesting tank, which is the part of the plinth of the house itself. Okay, so you can actually that becomes the uh, so whatever water is being collected from the terrace is all being harvested within the rainwater harvesting tank. It doesn't take a separate space outside the room, outside the house. With the efforts and resources spent in resources. Yes, in terms of carbon footprint, so whenever whatever is going to lie in your uh, dump yard, okay, and you are going to use an external energy to try and recycle it, it's always better to recycle it before that so that you use a lot of fossil fuel that is going to get burned otherwise recycling them. So definitely it is reducing the carbon footprint as well of that particular material here. I wouldn't say for the house. It does reduce the carbon footprint to a certain extent, but it's not totally rebated out for the house because there will be certain other elements which might be, still having carbon emissions. This is the elevation. I think more pictures. So that's the way the house looks like. Um, So it's more like a hybrid structure because you have your brick walls, which are nothing but a compressed, stabilized earth mud blocks. But you do have a framework. Then you have a steel girder that runs around. So you have a lot of different materials. But what I liked about the house was that it's designed in such a way that all the materials really come together and try and complement each other. It's never, not a single material looks like it's alien to that place. So the design of this residence breaks the shackle of a lot of generic ideas. The main concern while designing was to avoid creating an environmental imbalance in the area as it was a low-lying region. Yes, it is completely possible. It is possible to have completely zero energy house. You'll be dealing with it in the final year. This is how your living room looks like. That's your staircase, which is nothing but a metal staircase. Okay, and it has these bamboos also intertwined with it. If you see, it has a ledge as well. So there is a lot of inbuilt material. There is a jack arch which is happening as a So that is the support with a metal girder, angles which are there intermediately spaced. So this is how your staircases still project out. And this is the space that the architect is trying to say that it's like an institutional space, because you're not, it's like a semi-open space. You're not totally outside in the environment, and neither you're within that, you know, covered house. So that's the residents is actually enjoying that. So that's the access to that space, which is there. Okay. That's the farthest area where the study room was next to your kitchen. This is the space. Now, there is a jali, but at the top also, if you see, there is a way through which the daylight will enter. It just adds to the dynamism of that space. So the flooring is totally done like, it's a cemented Koba flooring, which is there. You have a lot of inbuilt platform, which is creating shelves for itself. So whatever wood that they have used is all recycled wood at the same time. It's also the wood that they acquired from the trees that they had uprooted. Uh, Look at the kind of lighting fixtures also which has been kept and put. Even the cabinet, it's actually being top hung from the jacquard itself. So here you're actually talking about multiple disciplines. You're talking about services, you're talking about construction, and you're talking about also the ambience and the design part of it. And also in terms of areas, because the materials which were procured are all the recycled materials or the upcycled materials. This is in another image which just talks about the entire shelf. It's very open. So see the kind of shelving which is being done, which is also internal. This is also, there is, these walls are being actually been ferro cemented as well, just to create the depressions in the niches. So that's why I called it as a hybrid structure. So they are not being using any kind of volatile organic compounds which are very, which has a negative impact. Now, volatile organic compounds are nothing but the adhesives that you use in terms of your lamination or the wooden surfaces, finishes that you apply on the wooden surfaces, the kind of paints or the textures that you use. All those generally, radiate out a certain kind of fumes within the atmosphere, which has impacts on the human health. So those are not being used. Everything is very natural, and that's why the word veristic is being used. Um, so see the kind of jali that he has created. It's more like an art form. Within that, he has created this insert of a glass box, which has these certain kind of utensils being placed. Then there is this grill metal work, which also creates like a shelf. There is this dining, wherein they have actually used the wood which is available from the site itself. Look at the wash basin, even that is inbuilt, the way it's been done. You know? And because the depression that you see, all your drainage systems are being hidden. What you get is a very clear kind of a image. Now that's the bathroom. If you see, the bathroom has a sliding door, so you can actually shut it completely. Okay, so there is no exchange. So that is just a bedroom at the next of it. So if you want, it's open. So there is a cross ventilation that happens. When not in use, it's definitely when not in use, you have a cross ventilation that happens. And then otherwise you shut the door and you have the privacy at the same time. So look at the finishes. Now here the person has not used any dado tiles. Okay, it's only the finishes itself that they've used. So not necessary you have to have a certain kind of finishes which are that you see in the market. The jali, that interwoven jali, is actually directed in an angle so that the wind can come in. So it's totally climate responsive in that sense. So that's that glass which is shutting the view of the bathroom, and that's your bedroom. Okay, and that's your inbuilt wardrobe within that space for your storage. And if you see, you have a lower level breeze, kind of a jali, so that it gets in the air as well. You will have a very thin mesh as well for the to keep the mosquitoes and things like that outside. The minimalistic interior and decor of the resident fits right in without creating much noise, keeping in mind the space and the vibe of the house with the vibe the house project. If you see the bed, it is again inbuilt. It's nothing but a RCC kind of a cemented slab on a metal rods are being used. So either you use kadapa and you finish it with cements, or you can actually have cemented. That's the wardrobe, and that's the entry to the toilet, another bedroom. So if you see the wall, you have a runner beam. So the cemented line that you see that is running through your brick courses, it's nothing but it's the runner beam, which is also tying. So on the other side, you have that bamboo kind of a facade which holds it, the steel girder that you saw. This is what I was talking about. The intricately worked out rotating CSEB jali creates a congruous circulation of air and the beautiful pattern on the walls as light beams through it. So you can see the shadows that happen. That's the space on the top to access your bedrooms. And if you see on the top, you again have a daylight. So you have a skylight on the roof that actually, and also that's the medium for your air ventilation as well. So the height actually gives a good displacement of air that happens. So this is a very interesting picture because it also talks about how the communication within the family members can happen. There are different spaces which are being designed. The railings are not the conventional railings. They are being, depending on the material that is being used, they have fabricated it accordingly. Look at the bookshelf that has been inserted within that jali wall. And if you see, the structural system is easily evident. But what I like is the way the structural element is being beautifully, it's showing its presence, but at the same time, the finishes are very beautifully carved out. This is all the wood that has been acquired. That's on the right, that's the picture when they were designing it, and that's the kind of sagging that was happening. And then they reinforced it with the steel rods. That's the jacquard formwork of the jacquard that you see onto your left. That's right in the center. The blue shirt is the architect. So look at the framework for the staircase. It is actually of metal, very thin, and it has a wire mesh. And then it has been casted with the help of the shuttering. And then you can see the finished. These are your frame structures with the RCC. That's how the jali is being placed. Yeah, Venu is the architect's name. The next house, same from the wall makers itself. It's the Debris house. So this is basically Mr. Biju Matthews' residence. Site was at a slope with remnants of a demolished building. Maximizing the given area, the building is set in multiple levels to accommodate the family and to meet all the client's dreams, okay, in the most feasible way. So whatever venue designs are also very economically feasible uh, sites or buildings. So that's why you uses a lot of recycled and upcycled material as well. So now here he had two challenges. One was the slope, and it was also a very tight space, and that's why he potentialized on the slopes by creating these different levels. So that's where the site is. So there have been individual blocks which have been there. Uh, it has an access by the road. Now Now, because he had a lot of remnants of the earlier building which were laid on site, he's, he actually started utilizing those. So that's why it's called the debris house. Now, the debris that he got is basically broken bricks, RCC slab waste, there was a ceramic waste, gravel stones in the soil. So that was 74% of the debris. Then gravelly soil that he mixed, then there was a sand and cement. And that's how he created this debris wall, which is all the mix of the debris that he collected from the site. And then he mixed a certain components to make it much more stabilized. He had a framework of a chicken wire mesh, which is there. And that's the process that he has explained on how he created this curved wall, which is nothing but a main feature because that's the spine of the project. So this is in detail where he is talking about the shuttering. So the generally shuttering is nothing but it's the framework which actually creates a kind of a shell, and then you cast the whole wall or the slab, and then you remove the shuttering once the material is being settled. So then that's how you get the finished shuttered debris wall at the end. So look at the mixes. Now here, he's not only an architect, but he's also adding the engineering component to it. So it is very important to understand the structures and the construction for us to identify what needs to be added at what percentages, okay, as architects. And what kind of grain is stone in the soil, it's 100 dia. So then, those things also matters a lot. So Shawbury wall is your shuttered debris construction process is what has been explained on this slide. That's the picture. So these are all your debris that you got from the site. That's the soil. That's the kind of framework that you have created. It's also called the Gabion wall construction. Okay. And then what you do is you actually have the shuttering and you level it with the mud. Okay. Honeycombing is actually a phenomena that happens if you don't uh, uh, try and what is there is a technical term which I'm missing here, but honeycombing is nothing but there is an air traps that happens within the material. So you need to really stir it well, or in terms of when you're creating these kinds of surfaces, you have to ensure that you vibrate the material so well that the air gaps are all being taken care of. There are no air gaps at all. Because if the air gaps are happening, then you will see those kinds of coarse gravel which is not totally covered with the cement. So if you go to any RCC building and the beams, not all surfaces are very clear, especially in the corners, you always see these gravels which are being stuck together. And it doesn't, the fine cement doesn't cover that part. That is nothing but honeycombing. So in terms of stabilized structures, you need to avoid honeycombing because what will happen is from there, one gravel will start pulling out. So that's why you need to avoid honeycombing. So you generally have these vibrators that you put in and you stabilize the entire material before it sets in, which just mixes well and it removes all the air gaps which are there. That's the section of the house. So the debris wall that you see, one was the one that we saw at the start is the curved wall, and the one that you saw on the right are your intermediate walls which are being done of rammed earth. Okay. Rammed earth is nothing but if you have noticed here, you see the layers of the sand. It gives you a nice texture to the wall. So every time you add a certain amount of soil, you compact it well. Okay, and then you put in another layer of soil. You again compact it well. So you keep doing it, but rammed earth has its own limitations. You can go G+1 maximum, and if as you go higher, you will have to increase the thickness. So you have a stabilized rammed earth, then you have a retaining wall of the concrete, which is there. Okay, so that because there is a certain kind of slope which is being taken care of, and that's how the that space is being elevated. You always have the ring beam, which is nothing but a tie beam. Okay, and to that ring beam, they have actually extended out, and it acts like a ledge. So in rammed earth at a certain height, you require the ring beam to stabilize the entire wall because it's a load bearing process again. But here you're also using a lot of steel for your slabs. So that's how those ring beams, and you will have certain posts which are important. So now this is a very peculiar reflected ceiling plan where he's using ferro cement, which is a shell roof. We will take ferro. I think we will see how. I'll try and source more examples of ferro cement shell roofs later. But ferro cement is nothing but it is a wire meshed and it's been cemented roof. It's lightweight structure. No one can walk over it. So in case you want the roofs accessible, then ferro cement can't be used. So if you see, it's only at a certain extension of the house. It's not all over. Okay. Now this guy has actually used coconut shell. So we saw pillar slab in Anupama Kundu's house last lecture, right? There she had used these clay pots. So here he has actually used these coconut shells to just take away the excess concrete that gets into the reinforcement slab. Okay, and he creates these patterns of these coconut shells across, and it really looks beautiful. I'll show the picture and then come back. So that is how your coconut shells looks like. Okay. This is your basically your first floor. As I told you, the curved uh, wall is basically the spine of the project, and then you have your spaces on both sides of the walls, which are intertwining it. Then there are these toilets which are there. So now, if you remember the layouts that we discussed in the services, one of the layout is something is being used here. So the toilet is not very linear, but is much more little squarish, wherein as soon as you enter, you have the wash basin, then you have the pot, and on the right hand side, you have your shower cubicle, which is being created. Okay. Now, as I told you, now when you enter your bedroom, you never see your toilet first. This is what I was trying to tell you in the services. Whenever you design in a residential area, whichever bedroom the door opens, you'll never hit the toilet. The toilet is always tucked on the side. That's your ground floor plan, wherein this is your entrance. You enter, then there is a sit out space. Then you enter your drawing room. Then there is a courtyard which opens up into your dining area. On the right hand side is your kitchen with your work area, wherein your cleaning and all things happen. Then you have your bedroom with the toilets. Now look the way the toilets are being done now. Okay. Now one of the toilet doesn't have it has access from both sides. If you can see, it has the access from the dining area and it has the access from the bedroom as well. Okay, it's not at all private. And also at the top you will have a mechanical ventilation because it doesn't have daylit. It's not daylit properly. So you'll have it on the top or the ventilator. So if you see at the top of this door, you will have that kind of a glazing. So if you remember the earlier picture of the toilet door with the glazing, he generally keeps that so that there is daylight that comes in. There is a car porch for the parking as well. And then from the car porch also you can access your entire house. Now this is the curved wall, and that's your dining area here. That's another staircase to go to the bedroom. This staircase that you see is actually created by using recycled, upcycled wood, which is there. You can see the coconut shells on the top of the ceiling with a cutout so that a nice daylight enters, as well as if you see the rainwater is also going to enter in here. Okay, because this is also Kerala. So what you have below is your garden, which will percolate the rainwater as it comes in. So which is a soft skill. That's the toilet. Can you see the slit at the top, which is getting in the daylight, and it's also a form of the ventilation. On the other side is the courtyard side, which is actually your entrance porch, which is there. The grill jali that you see is the metal boxes. These are nothing but your meter boxes. Metal meter meters रहता है. उसका जो metal box रहता है, that case, he's used that. to create these jalis. And he has created a pattern. Considering the local nuances and the economic constraints, the materials were responsibly chosen. The wall rose out from the earth that was dug out within the site. The debris from the earlier building is turned to a curvilinear wall that forms the central courtyard and becomes the central focus of the house. That's the bedroom, wherein here he has not created any kind of bed. It's just a floor bed that they have kept. Now here if you see the flooring pattern, where the jali is and where there is a chances of little rain to come in, the kind of flooring differs. It's different compared to your bedroom flooring. Now these are little sensitive things that the architects has kept in mind. Also, the kind of shuttering that he has used has created a pattern on the wall, and you keep seeing the layers of the rammed earth which is there. Okay, the curved wall is nothing but your debris wall, which has been constructed using the debris on site. That's in another view. These are the jackass arches. So wherever he has a slab, he generally uses metal jack arches, which are there.
I have one question.
Yes.
The bedroom we showed just right now, it's very open. So in case of any kind of a disaster or thunder, isn't it impractical to keep it this open? Like,
When you mean by disaster or a thunder, in the sense? No, these are also during the
sorry.
construction site, so you can actually have your screens and all. You can do that. You can actually have screens for your own self. So the up, the upholstery is still not being, so that you can occupy the house. He's just talking about. Also, if you see, there is nothing like a view or next to it, and also the height. It's actually where your palm tree is accessible. The leaves of it. Okay. Yeah. So this is another. This is just about how the rain droplets have been onto that central courtyard. That's the kitchen, which has been there. That's in another view of the house. So, a technology widely used by late architect Laurie Baker, which talks about your filler slabs or filler concrete slabs. So, he used to use a lot of terracotta tiles. Anupama Kundu used clay pots. So, here he has actually experimented using the coconut shells. This is both concrete, and it's also you reduce the concrete so that the heat, which is so what happens is concrete as a material has the capacity to absorb the heat very fast and it will retain the heat as well. So when you cut down the mass of the concrete, you're also cutting down the ability of that roof to absorb the heat. And being Kerala, it's going to be hot and humid as well. This is in another picture of the slide, which talks about. So look at the rainwater harvesting that happens. So through this garden itself, okay, the water percolates into your rainwater harvesting tank. Okay, let me go to that section again so that it's easier for you guys. Yeah. So here is your uh, percolation pit that happens here, and then from here he has a rainwater harvesting tank below this floor. Any questions, guys? So what these two examples were trying to tell you is basically your passive design technique that the architect has used in terms of his fenestrations, the material choices, and tried and create a very cozy, comfortable indoor conditions, wherein the daylight is very good so that the client doesn't resort a lot of artificial light. There is a good amount of sunlight that enters your houses, which actually improves the energy of the house as well. There is a good amount of ventilation that happens, which ensures good air quality is present within the space. At the same time, it's conserving water. There's a rainwater harvesting also that happens. Yes. Any questions, guys?